here from Scuderia Audio, and today we're going to be looking at a new product. I've been working on it for a while. It's super cool and I cannot wait to show you. So first I'm going to go over a brief history of the 360/430 HiFi option and how this product ties into that. Then I'll actually show you the product, and then we're going to actually hook it up to a sound system so you can check it out. Okay, so the HiFi option on the 360s and 430s is just basically a subwoofer box made out of high impact plastic with one little dual voice coil speaker on the top, and on the bottom there's this little, it's a speaker, but it doesn't have any power to it. It just kind of vibrates. It's called a passive radiator. And then there's going to be a lot of show and tell today. So, and in the front, under the dash, in the center, there's this nice leather-covered cradle, excuse me, that holds a booster. Not an amplifier, it's a 60-watt booster. And it's mounted in the cradle by this little bracket with a little tab that hangs out where you put a screw through there up into the dash. That's what holds it in, and there's some pins that guide it and hold it in the back, right? So this booster kind of drops into the cradle here, and then there's this big proprietary plug in the back I actually bought a HiFi harness from a Ferrari auto wrecker straight out of a 360. So I could show you that this whole thing plugs into the car with just one plug. You hook this hook in there, you swivel it, and it clicks into place. So for sure, the weak link in the system is this 60-watt booster. It has an incredible 10% distortion, and the name of the car audio game and home theater game, if you want to think about it, always has been and always will be power. Power, power, power. So that's why I went on this huge project to develop this super amp. It's basically the same case as the booster. In fact, I buy up all the old boosters and use them for the parts to build these super amps. Right? I just powder coat the case black, and there's some electronic components in here. I use the same plug. One of my customers called it the big scary plug, so I thought that's perfect. We call it the big scary plug. So it uses the big scary plug. So right, so it'll plug into your HiFi harness. Well, the problem with these things are that they're really expensive. Right, there's two of these little Mosconi Pico 2.0 amps in there. They're a 200-watt stereo amplifier. They're just amazing, but they're $500 a piece, right? So to start with, you've got to buy $1,000 worth of mini amplifiers before you can even have anything to hook them up to. Then I had to have a custom circuit board designed and electronic components. This end plate is custom made with custom silk screening. Just those alone are really expensive, and they take a lot of time and effort to assemble. Having said that, I've sold around 50 of these, because when you hook this up to the Ferrari with the HiFi option, it gives you an astonishing improvement in the sound. They're just way expensive. Now in comparison, okay, this is the JL Audio 600-watt amp. It has more features than the little super amp, right? You can adjust the crossovers, you can adjust the gains. You just remove this little plate in the back. And these things are like 400 bucks. The problem is, right, you have all these wires. How are you going to hook the thing up? Right? That is the problem. If there was only a way to hook this thing up without hacking up the HiFi harness, we'd be golden. Well, that brings me to the new product. See this? It's an adapter. It's a really fancy adapter, but it's just an adapter. It has no moving parts or anything. It's got terminal block on one end. Two of the terminals are huge because the bigger wire you have for power and ground on your amplifier, the better, because it's only a 12-volt system. And on the other side, it's the big scary plug, right? So all you do, you buy your 500 watt or 600 watt or whatever watt aftermarket amp, right, for way less money. You just take the wires and you wire it into the terminal block. There's silk screening here that shows you exactly how to do it. You take the RCAs and you just plug them into the two RCAs on the side. And then you plug it right into the HiFi harness. Done. It couldn't be easier. Now, excuse me. This JL Audio 600 watt amp, the 600/3 and the JL Audio 500/4 will actually fit in the stock cradle. It'll physically fit. Right? So what I did is I had a bunch of steel laser cut adapter plates fabricated. Right? It's got the same little ear and with the hole so you can mount it the same way. It's got 4 holes to mount this to the amplifier, and then it's got 4 more holes to mount to the cradle, right? So I'm basically going to sell a kit that's almost half the price of the super amp. It's going to come pre-assembled, and it basically looks like this, right? You have your JL Audio 500 or 600 watt amp. It's bolted to the adapter plate. I have the center section cut out in case you want to take this panel off, and you can adjust your settings on your stereo in real time if you want to while you're listening to the music. And then it's pre-wired into this adapter. So all you do is bolt this adapter amp combo into your cradle, 4 bolts, right? And then you just plug it into your harness, and that's it. Okay, so I've got the portable stereo in my dining room standing by. So we're going to take this system out, plug it in. So let's go play with stereo. Okay, so we have our portable system here. We're going to hook it up real quick. So we've got the same Focal mid-range and tweeters that I sell, but they're in, little easy to transport bookshelf speaker boxes. We've got an OEM subwoofer box with my little subwoofer upgrades. We've got a little 12-volt power supply, a head unit with a little thumb drive. So this is a wiring harness right out of a 360 for the OEM HiFi system. Right, this is the other side of the big scary plug, and then speaker wires and so forth. So this is the exact same thing. The only difference is I taped it all up and I added more speaker wire, right, so it would reach these different components. And then I bought these really cool automotive quick connect, quick disconnect connectors, which makes it real easy to connect it. I kind of made it so you couldn't screw it up, right? For example, the female goes on one side and the male goes on the other side. So we're going to hook this up real quick. This is a big scary plug. This plugs into the head unit. Now I actually send this out to qualified buyers all over the country so they can hear what my system is going to sound like before they spend any money. But fair warning, no one I've sent this out to and has listened to it has not purchased a complete system. Okay, hook it up to the power supply. Then we've got our two cables for the highs. Female goes on this side. Male goes on that side. Then we've got the big subwoofer cable. Now I also have one of my 8-inch subwoofer boxes with the same quick disconnect as the OEM, 5-inch subwoofer box. So this system can just as easily be tested and sent out, whatever, with the 8-inch sub or this OEM sub box, or both, if you want to hear the difference. Okay, at this point, all we need to do is plug in the booster, plug the power supply into the power, and start playing some music. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop here. I'm going to adjust the camera to get a little bit of closer view to these components. And what I'll also do is I'll install this OEM booster into the OEM cradle so that it'll essentially be just like what you have to start with. And then I'll show how easy it is to remove it from the cradle and install this big scary adapter and OEM, JL audio amplifier into the system, and we'll test that. So, be right back. Okay, so I put the OEM booster in its cradle, right? There's this little bracket up here with a little mounting tab, and then two bolts go into that mounting tab from the two ears on the one side, and the two ears on the other side just bolt directly into the cradle. So what we'll do is we'll plug the booster in. Remember how this is done? You get the hook side and you hook it in and you swivel it until it clicks right in. Plug it into power. The little head unit comes on. We'll put a little thumb drive in there. Right, to get a decent amount of sound out of this thing, I have to put this volume on number 14. We'll unplug this. Unplug the power. Grab the little tab, unplug the booster. Like I said, while we're here, we'll take the super amp, plug him in, same plug, plug in the power, now unfortunately I can't play a song that you recognize because I tried that a long time ago and YouTube would not let me post the video because of copywriting issues. So I just play my little trusty Scuderia audio theme song. So with the super amp, I get the same amount of volume out of the system if I put this on number 4 as opposed to 14 with the old booster, because we've got 400 watts as opposed to 60. Okay, unplug one more time. Unplug the super amp. Okay, so all we need to do is get a Phillips screwdriver, remove these 4 screws, remove the old booster, take your new setup, put the 4 screws back in. Plug in the big scary adapter. Plug in the power. Wait for the head unit to come on. Plug in our music. And we are good to go. Okay, well, that's about it. A couple of final things. Let's say you wanted to use like a 1,000-watt amplifier, and of course it's not going to fit in the cradle, so you want to mount it in the trunk. Well, that's fine. You know, you just take the wires and you run them through the firewall, and they'll eventually end up where the adapter is, and then you just wire it in there just the same way, and then you just plug it into your harness. Done. Now, if you do that, if you mount an amp that uses that much power, you probably won't want to hook the power and ground wire to these lugs. Now, this circuit board is fused, and you can safely run 500 or 600 watts through it. But if you want to run like 1,000 watts or more, you probably want to run the power wire directly to the battery and then just run the ground to chassis. And that applies if you're mounting a really large amp in the cradle or in the trunk, wherever you want in the car. You know, you don't have to mount the power and ground wires through this if you don't want to. It's just a convenience. It works perfectly, but if you hook all the other connectors up to this, the RCAs for the signal, and then you mount the power and ground wire separately, it'll work perfectly just the same. Okay, well, have a great day!